And welcome everybody to the Writer's Bridge. It is the first Writer's Bridge of 2024. We are now in our third year. This is episode 65, I think, 66. And we absolutely could not do it without every single one of you amazing people. Thank you so much for being here today. So it's 2024. What should you be doing to promote your book, reach your readers, and get published? Well, today we have Kathleen Schmidt, who is the creator of the wildly popular Publishing Confidential on Substack. And Kathleen knows the steps you need to take. So today we're going to talk platform and publicity. We are going to talk about whether you need to be on social media or what to do instead. And we're going to talk about the best ways to connect with your future readers now. Before we properly introduce our special guest, what's on the calendar? Hey, Sharla, what is coming up with the Craft Talks webinars? And do I sound like a cheesy podcast host or what?
You sound great.
Smash that subscribe button.
Like and subscribe below. Yeah, tomorrow we have a webinar with Heather Sellers. It's Bold Brevity, Power-Packed Writing Techniques for Flash Forums. It's going to be a great one. If you can't make it, it's at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can always sign up and get the replay with the supplemental materials. Also, we have our very first multi-week boot camp, and that starts this Saturday. It's called Wild Creativity 6-Week Generative Boot Camp for All Genres with Megan Baxter. That starts again on Saturday. There are still seats available, so if you'd like to learn more about either of those, please follow the links I'm going to put in the chat. And welcome, everyone. What about you, Allison? What you got going on?
I have a webinar coming up with Jane Friedman. I am teaching Pitch, Publish, Get Paid. It is all about how to place your hot essays and your op-eds, how to get into every venue you want to be published in. I am proud to say that I have been called the McSweeney's Whisperer, and I embrace that title. So we'll be talking about, how do you place essays to promote your work, promote your memoir, get your readership built, because it's so much more fun to write something beautiful than it is to put out yet another thing on social media, which I say with all love in my heart for social media. Sharla, tell us about our beautiful, incredible guest today.
Yeah, our guest today has a deep background in all aspects of the industry, including as a publicist, a literary agent, acquisitions editor, and ghostwriter. As the founder and CEO of Kathleen Schmidt Public Relations, her career encompasses 30 years of creating and directing global media, marketing, and branding campaigns for politicians, A-list celebrities, athletes, and high-profile personalities. To date, she's worked on 50 New York Times bestsellers, and her clients have continuously appeared in top-tier national print, broadcast, and radio outlets such as The Today Show, Good Morning America, Vogue, and others. From Evander Holyfield to Marlo Thomas and many other recognizable names, Kathleen Schmidt has made sure that her clients are part of the public conversation, buzzed about and booked. And today she's going to tell us what you need to know to be part of the conversation too. Welcome, Kathleen. So happy to have you here. If everyone wants to give her like an emoji or welcome, fingers, confettis, I don't know.
Jazz hands. It's the Zoom applause.
Kathleen, what are you working on?
I could just show off my purple nails.
Ooh, beautiful.
What am I working on? I am working on, I'm doing some political consulting, which is exciting for me, a little branch out from books. There is a book involved, but a lot of it is also consulting on strategy. I'm working on some literary fiction. I am I'm helping a couple of people with their book proposals. I am writing a whole lot of Substacks lately and proposals for potential clients. And I'm probably leaving a whole lot out. I have a great book that I'm working on that I'm excited about for May. It's an author, her name is Lori Tucker Sullivan, and she wrote a book. She interviewed widows of rock stars, and it's a compilation of those that's coming out in May. I'm really excited about that book. So
your publicity is working because I have definitely seen information about that book, and I can't remember exactly where I've seen it. I can't remember whether I heard about it from Lori directly or from another source, but the book is definitely living in my consciousness. And I think that's what we're all trying to do. One of the biggest questions that we often get from authors about to publish is, should I hire a publicist? And my answer is usually, You needed to do that 18 months ago, and anyone good enough to actually help you is going to cost way more than you want to spend. How much am I bitterly exaggerating, Kathleen? What's the real scoop on how do you hire a publicist?
Okay, so I can only speak for myself, which, you'll hear me say a lot during this, but I take clients on who have books coming out anywhere from a year to 4 months from publication. Sometimes I'll take clients on that are in between books, so that we can work on branding and platform building, until until their next book is published, and then we'll keep working through that. And it really depends on the project. If someone comes to me and has a book releasing in 3 months or less, I'm not going to take that on because it's stressful for me and it's stressful for the author, and also probably a waste of money in a way for the author. Um, Again, I'm only speaking for myself. I feel like my fees are reasonable in my opinion. I've started a program actually where I offer payment plans to authors, and it's worked out well. So, that's because I know what author advances are like. I know from being an agent, I know from being a ghostwriter, I know from being an acquisitions editor, and various other positions I've had in publishing. And I know that if I had to afford a publicist right now, I would not be able to do it with some of the rates that are out there. It's often said, "Oh, you're going to need $25,000 to hire an outside publicist." Not in my case. And in the spirit of transparency, because not a lot of publicists will do this, I have a program where if you're an indie published author, or a self-published author, or a university press author, I have a flat fee of $4,000, and I charge $500 a month for 8 months. That is the payment plan that I've been testing out, and it's worked really, really well. And that doesn't mean I do any less work for you. It just means that I'm making it fair and affordable. My flat fee for consultations, which you could see on my website, kmspr.com, is between $300 and $350. And there are different kinds of consultations, and that's 60 to 90 minutes of my time. I still think that's a really reasonable flat rate for what you're getting from me. So I would say shop around. I have told you what I charge. I mean, and I would just put this caveat for any self-published authors. It depends on the scope of work. If you're just coming to me for PR work, we could talk about the flat fee. If you're coming to me for marketing, PR, and everything, that's an entirely different story, and this doesn't apply to that. So,
What kind of authors need to hire their own publicist? Would you?
It depends, I mean, I get a lot of inquiries from authors published by independent publishers or university presses, because they tend not to have the staff to do any of that, to do marketing or PR. I get inquiries from some authors published by the big five, and with them it's a different conversation, because what I want to know from them is, have they had that first meeting with the publicity and marketing department, and what are the plans that imprint at that big five publisher have in store for that book, because that's how I can suss out what I might be able to do for them.
So, how can an author tell if a publicist is actually going to help them? So I worked with an editorial client a while ago who was working with a fairly well-regarded hybrid press. Like they were not a scam press, they weren't expensive press, but they did deliver a reasonable quality of services. But the press recommended her to a publicity agency that charged her $25,000. And she was asking me because she felt like, I don't know any better and I don't feel like this is right, but I don't know what right looks like. They had written a really bad press release with misspellings in it. And I've written my fair share of press releases, so I know what a good one looks like. And they had sent her like an Excel sheet of magazines, which, number one, like part of the point of a publicist from my experiences, they need to get you into the places you can't get yourself into. And any one of
Right.
these were magazines that she could have just pitched it directly. And a lot of it was stuff like, no, your memoir about swimming the English Channel does not belong in Bark the Dog Lovers magazine. So how can you tell if a publicist is actually going to help you?
Well, first, I would say that I'm hearing this more and more from people, not only from authors, but from journalists who get pitches, from publicists who are trained with very bad habits. And it comes from a place of, we need to show the client that we pitched 300 places, no matter what they are. And that is not how I work. It's not how a few of us work. First of all, I don't send out blast emails. Every email comes from me personally. It's personalized. I don't believe in spending a lot of time pulling lists and pulling spreadsheets together. That is a waste of my time when I could be connecting, with media. So I'm also, I'm speaking for myself again, but if someone wants to hire me solely to get them book reviews, I will not take that money because it is not worth it. It's very hard to get book reviews. I'm not saying it's impossible, but if someone just wants that from me, it's something I'm going to turn down, because no matter what, it's not going to make you happy. It's not going to make me happy. And I want people to be happy. So it's just not something, it's too, you always say you want to roll the dice and there's a 50-50 chance. Today, that's not true. I think it's more like 90% of no and 10% of yes with book reviews. Okay.
So
That's the first. Yes.
if book reviews are not good, what should we be getting? What kind of publicity is good?
Okay. So since book reviews are so hard, I'm not discounting them. Okay. They serve a purpose. They can elevate an author's profile, possibly provide blurbs for marketing purposes, for a paperback, for putting on pages, stuff like that. Gives the writer validation. But sales, not so much. Okay. And then this is the point I want to make. There are two kinds of publicists. There are publicists that are pitching machines and just go, 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 go. So they can show the quantity of places that they've pitched to a client. And then there are people like me who want to be strategic in what promotional activities occur, because I want to draw a direct line from those activities to sales. And the reason for that is because I care about my client's previous book, if they have one, their current book, and their future books or book. And I know that the future book can't come unless the current book sells well. And that's, I think, a big difference between myself and a handful of other publicists that I know in the business and everybody else, because I care that your book sells. I don't just care that I'm getting a line in People magazine that's going to sell exactly 2 copies of a book. That's great to say you've been in People magazine, but it doesn't sell your book. And unless your book sells, you're going to have a really hard time getting another book deal. And that is, the difference. And you really want the publicist who cares about you in a holistic way, your writing career, the whole shebang. And those are the people who will actually help you.
Can I ask you about sales real quick? Jane Friedman just reported on Authors Guild survey that showed that self-publishers are making more money than traditionally published authors. But what trends are you seeing in terms of self versus traditional publishing? And I'm also teaching a course right now, and I have students talking about this very thing, trying to decide whether they're aiming for self-publishing or aiming for traditional Big 5 publishers.
Our beliefs about the industry and what we see happening going forward. So I'm seeing a surge in self-publishing. I'm definitely seeing more of it happening and more people, kind of leaning towards that. And I believe that self-publishing will become even more legitimized and popular within the next 3 to 5 years. And when I talk to authors about what route to take, I ask them what they expect from traditional publishing, because the biggest difference is that if somebody if somebody goes the self-publishing route, they still need to hire an editor. They still need to hire a cover designer, copy editor, someone to help them with PR and marketing. You have to have capital to do that. If you're just writing a book and slapping it up on Amazon or going through Ingram Spark and all that, perfectly fine to do that if you want to. But if you actually want to make a career out of it, you need a team. You need to assemble a team. So I think that, the other part is that people are becoming disenchanted with traditional publishing because writers can't make a living wage in traditional publishing. And if done right, self-publishing could be quite lucrative. It's not that rare for self-published authors to make a nice chunk of change, and you're not beholden to these crappy advances that you get from traditional publishing, for lack of a better word.
I really, really appreciate you saying that, because I feel like we are in a huge turning point in publishing right now, where it's getting easier to self-publish or to publish with a small independent press and still get noticed. It's getting harder to get published by a traditional publisher, and it never paid all that well anyway. And we're all kind of mourning this era that never existed of, oh, well, you always got a book deal. And it's like, no, you didn't always get a book deal. Lots of people did not get a book tour and signings in the bookstore and stuff. That still was an extremely limited amount of people. It always has been.
Yeah, and I can't tell you the last time I put an author on tour, honestly. I can't. And, the other part of this, I would say, is people get very hung up on the idea of being distributed. And to that, I would say that 80% of book sales happen on e-commerce, and Amazon has more than half of that 80% market share. So if you're hung up on being distributed and finding your book in a bookstore, don't be, because Barnes and Noble has changed their policy. It's just managers, it's the store managers ordering for each store, because they're treating each store like an indie bookstore. Indie bookstores are very finicky because they don't have the space to stock a lot. Barnes and Noble, I've seen pass completely on titles because they're trying to limit returns, which James Daunt, the CEO, has done a good job of, but it also hurts authors, so I wouldn't get too hung up on the distribution part of that.
Absolutely. And Jan makes a point in the chat that her understanding is that it is rare for a self-published author to do well. It happens, but not very often. What I would say is that historically, there have been far more self-published books than there are self-published books that do well. So yes, it's a small percentage, but the self-publishers who are doing well are making more than most traditionally published authors are making. Kathleen, do you want to cast any more light on that? I feel like self-publishing is also gaining a lot of quality. Like, more people are understanding you have to have a good cover, you have to hire an editor, that kind of thing. What are you seeing?
That is what I'm seeing. I think the people who don't do well in self-publishing are the people who are they're not investing capital into what they're doing. If you're going to self-publish, my feeling is you have to treat it like your own little publishing company. Create an LLC, call it something, not just, you uploading a book on Amazon. It makes it look, number one, more professionally done, but also, you do need, as much as I, would love to tell self-published authors, you don't need to spend all that money. The thing you shouldn't spend money on is, don't pay like $15,000 to some company who says they're going to publish your book. No, that's not a good idea. But putting money towards your cover design, your editorial work, your production, your, marketing and publicity. I'm working with someone right now who assembled an entire team, and I'm in charge of the PR, marketing, ad, promo, and it's great. Everybody, it's like working for a very, very small publisher. And I would say that if you can do it that way, you have more of a chance of being successful. And advances aren't all that. They really aren't these days. And it's sad, to say the least.
Right. We have a question in the chat, and it's from Abby. What's a reasonable amount of money invested to make a self-publishing book have a chance at being successful?
I really don't know. That's hard to say because it depends on the genre. It depends on the author's already existing platform. It depends on how much money they have to invest. I mean, it could be anywhere from, 15,000. That's probably 10 to 15 is probably the floor of what you're talking about spending. And then above that, I wouldn't say it's more than like 30 grand. And that's a lot. That's a high end, but you can do it.
I can give a little bit of perspective on this because I worked with Woodhall Press, who are a lovely small publisher and gave me a lot of support. Did not have a huge ton of budget. I ended up dealing with my own cover design and then hiring a designer to clean it up and put it in the proper format and InDesign. I paid about $2,500 for editing because the editor that was originally assigned to my book was not the right fit. She was a lovely person. She was not the right fit to edit my particular book. Most authors, if you've got an index, you pay for it. And my index cost me about $1,000. I want to say I probably spent $5,000, maybe $6,000 on publishing the book. And that was officially with a small advance for an actual publisher. But I also had my fingers all over everything and got a level of control that I would not have gotten in most other cases. So for me, it was a weird situation, but I think you could successfully self-publish a book for about $5,000 if you know good people and get your money's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Sharla, do we have more questions coming in the chat?
We do, and there's one that has been mentioned a few different times, so I'm gonna summarize it or generalize it. Is there any genre that you would say avoid self-publishing? It's probably not gonna reach your audience.
Yes, I would avoid literary fiction, and don't kill me for this, but I would avoid memoir.
Okay. What about middle grade and young adult?
That is the one area of publishing I do not have expertise in. So I don't know how those books do self-publish. I try not to speak to things I don't know anything about.
I know a bit about that, and it is very, very hard to self-publish middle grade and YA because most of those books are not purchased by the readers themselves. They are purchased by librarians and parents who are looking at very traditional ways of purchasing books rather than randomly getting something on Amazon that they did not, that they've never heard about.
Can I add to that, Allison? Real quick. I know for a fact that genre writers that do things like romance and horror do find success self-publishing on like subscription type sites, like think Patron. How do you say it? Patron? I can't. No, it's not Patron.
Patreon.
Well, do both.
Do tequila
shots and subscription service. They'll do great. But no, I mean, some genres like that really find some financial success. That's what you're looking for. You have to decide what success looks like for you, but that is an option for genre writers.
And I would just add to that also, I'm a huge romance reader. I would say 99% of the romance authors I read are self-published.
Yeah. And that's a genre too, where if you write it well and you love writing it and you can churn out, and I use the word churn in a very positive manner, churn out a book about every 2-3 months, you can make an actual living on that. And genre is really the key there. So just switching gears a tiny bit, Deepa has a great question in the chat. What can authors do to help their publicity team before the publicity efforts start? Like, how can authors help their publicity team position for success?
I cannot emphasize this enough, and you'd be really surprised how many authors don't do this. You must participate in your publicity campaign. I am constantly struggling with some clients who do not think they need to participate in like, actually writing the Substack, actually building the audience. They just say, here, lady, here's the keys to my publicity campaign. You go off and do everything. That's not how this works. It's a collaboration. You're a team, and I find that authors, you have one or two types of authors who are really open and email you their questions as they come up, which I love. You cannot communicate with me enough. I'm that type of person because I can't read your mind. So if you have something on your mind, you need to tell me, or else I can't guess what that is. So the best kind of authors are ones that come to you and say, what should I be doing right now? Here's what I'm thinking. Is this right or wrong? And then we work together to figure out what the best thing is, whether it's, should I spend more time on Instagram? What do you think of TikTok? Should I do this? Should I forget about Twitter? Yes, you should. Should I make more, should I make more Instagram reels? Should I try Instagram reels? But just different things like that. And I tend to do what I call a digital audit for clients, where I look at their website, all their socials, everything, their Substack if they have one, or another newsletter, and I kind of give them a write-up of, this is what I think, and this is what can improve from here on in. And that is the best way to start off with your publicist.
Do you have to have a big platform, or is that still a thing?
No, it is still a thing with publishers, and I wish that would change, because it's not worth it. It's, the social media audiences are so fragmented right now that engagement metrics, and metrics is, how you measure how engagement is. So if you post something and you get no comments, no likes, no nothing, you're not getting engagement. But engagement matters way more than your number of followers. And the two places that I focus on the most right now are Threads and Instagram. TikTok, I am addicted to at night just because I want mindless scrolling, and it shows me things without me having to search, and that's on purpose. They have a really good AI algorithm, but I don't necessarily go on there to make clever videos. And what I would say, and what I do say to authors who don't have a big social media platform, because hardly anybody does that I work with, find your digital surrogates. And by that, I mean a digital surrogate is someone who does have a platform, who is comfortable posting, who might be someone who said to you, I would love to blurb your book, I just don't have time to read it. You can go back to that person and say, I appreciate you considering, blurbing my book. Would you be able to post about it on social media? I would really appreciate that. Give them the digital asset to do it. Give them the book cover. Tell them what you want them to say, or a blurb or something. I do it for my friends all the time who don't have as big a platform as I do. So you might see something in one of my newsletters, or you might see something on Instagram where it's not a client of mine, it's a friend of mine that I'm helping out. And that's what a digital surrogate is.
I like that. And I think too that there are so many good platforms that are not social media. Rebecca mentions one way to get excitement about your memoir, get the attention of agents, et cetera, is to publish essays from your memoir in big commercial publications, Huffington Post, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, New York Times, today.com. It's not the only way, but it's one way. That's how Rebecca got her agent. And she knows a few other writers writing memoirs, because even one great essay that gets traction can change everything. So Kathleen, are hot essays still a thing? When an author publishes a piece related to their topic or their book, do agents and publishers get interested? Does it help sell their book?
I think it does, I think that, if it goes viral and it gets a lot of traction, yeah, because it gives agents proof of concept. They can see that you can write about a topic really well, whether that be a personal topic, whether it be, something else that you write in an opinion piece. If, however, that said, with media in a decline, because it is, we can't say it's not. There have been a ton of layoffs over the past couple of weeks. What I would be doing as an agent is scouting Substack, because that is going to become a place where, more like the premier place to publish personal essays, and where agents are going to end up scouting more from. And I don't think it's going to happen right away, but I think people should be prepared for it to happen. I think we're building up to that. Smart agents are already starting to do it, but not enough, because Substack, again, with anything else in book publishing is slow to catch to Substack. So we will see books based on Substacks in the coming years, just not right at this moment.
So Irina has a very powerful question. How do we build up our Substack for someone who is still fairly new or not getting a lot of engagement? And Kathleen, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about Substack in particular, because a lot of my platform was built on the Brevity blog, which is a small literary magazine blog. They specialize in flash nonfiction. They're a fairly big deal in the world of literary nonfiction. And I like to joke that all it took me to build my platform was 10 years of posting quality content twice a week for my exact audience who needed me the most. And with the Writer's Bridge, I mean, we started with nothing, and now we have a mailing list of about 3,600 people. And all it took was putting out quality content for an hour every other week for several years. How long is it going to take Substack to get traction? What should you be doing so that you are enjoying the process in the meantime? Because when I was blogging for Brevity, so many of those blogs became part of my writing craft book. Like, it felt like a chance to test out my material.
So I'll tell you the story of mine very quickly. So I had Publishing Confidential as a MailChimp newsletter back in 2016 with like 50 of my friends in my email list, ex-colleagues of mine, a couple of media friends. I think I literally wrote 2 issues of it, and then I kind of felt like I couldn't do it, because then I took a literary agent job and I couldn't write about the industry being in it in that capacity. Fast forward to March of 2023, I'm not working for a publisher anymore. I made a decision that I was going to try to write honestly about publishing and demystify it. And by doing that, I would be critical of some publishers, and most of them would be big 5 publishers. And I had to accept the fact that they probably weren't going to hire me, and that's okay, because they weren't hiring me anyway, which is why I started my own company. Once you turn 50 in this industry, I'm going to be 52 this year. It's kind of like, you've been doing this a long time, you're too expensive, we can't hire you. Every job was going to someone 15 to 20 years younger than me. So I decided to start my own company, the long and short of it. I imported those email addresses and I just started writing. I had no expectation at all. And that was March of 2023. As of right now, I'm at 6,000 subscribers.
Wow.
And what I have found is that I found a niche that no one was filling. There are other newsletters in the spirit of mine, like Courtney Mom's newsletter is fantastic. Emma Gannon's is fantastic. There are a couple of other really good ones that center around, publishing, but nobody was really writing anything to demystify, to pull the curtain back on the industry, or to take stories and not be afraid to be critical of big publishers, because I don't depend on advertising for them. And places like Publishers Weekly and other book trades, they do. And so they can't write those stories. Or if they do, they have to write it a particular way. I also used the notes feature in Substack. I comment on a lot of people's Substacks. I subscribe, and I'm not saying you should do this because I'm a media junkie. I subscribe to a lot of things. I subscribe to 115 Substacks. And, it's good to subscribe to a lot of them because then you see what other people are doing and you learn a lot more. It's just like in publishing, in writing, and to be a better writer, you have to read. To do a better Substack, you have to read other Substacks. And if you find your niche and you're very good at, creating branding for it. I had a logo created. I let my subscribers in. I just did a post over the weekend of kind of like getting to know me. Those sorts of things. They really want to know, they really want authenticity. I offer them something. I just did a special over the weekend where with a yearly subscription, they got a 30-minute Ask Me Anything Zoom with me, which is wildly popular. I have to cut it off after 24 hours because I think I got 30 of them over the weekend. But it's things like that. You have to find your niche and know who you're writing for. So that goes right back to publishing. It circles right back to writing a book. You need to identify who your reader is. And you can't just write like you're writing in a journal for yourself. You're servicing your readers.
Right. Right. I love what you say about authenticity because I think that is really the drive behind a lot of success in social media, even like TikTok. People feel like they have immediate access to people and that they're getting a genuine person. So that's important. Yeah. Would you say, go ahead.
Well, I was going to segue into, the question you guys put forth to me about memoir and how it's selling and what's affecting its sales. And I can't sugarcoat it. Memoir is a very tough category right now, but I don't blame book publishing as much as I blame social media for that. So it's sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. We get so much personal information from people on social media platforms that run the same themes of trauma, divorce, women starting over, sickness, resilience, all of that it makes it incredibly difficult to say, this memoir will sell really well. It has to be something extraordinary. And my suggestion to anyone here would be do a search on Instagram and TikTok of your main themes in your memoir and see what's on there. And you'll get a better idea of what's already out there and what people are getting for free, because asking someone to spend, let's say $24.99 on a memoir versus them seeing it in short clips for free on Instagram or TikTok are two very different things. And I think that, instead of editors, which I'm hearing a lot of editors are saying, platform's not big enough, it's too depressing. Memoir is really hard right now. Just say it, that I don't know if they realize it, but it is it's an after effect of everything being out in the open on social media all the time.
Interesting. We have questions about blogging and podcasting. Do you have any opinions about those ways to reach people?
I think podcasting is, I'm considering doing it, but it seems like a very exhausting endeavor to me right now. And you don't really know how many people you're reaching I think you have to be all in if you're going to do it and really make a production out of it. You have to remember you're putting a product out there for consumers who need to choose from a lot of different products. So you can't look at it in a vacuum. You have to look at it outside of even the publishing world. So you have to see what people are listening to outside of publishing. What are the top 20 podcasts in general? Then go by category, see what's going on there. Then, look at think about who your listener would be. What are they watching on streaming? What movies are they going to see? What brands do they buy? This is also what I tell people about finding their readers. You have to look at it holistically. You have to look at it outside of books and look at the entire consumer landscape. Blogging is subjective, I think. I think it's very similar to Substack in that, but the one difference is with Substack, you own your audience there. And that's a big difference, because when we talk about social media platforms like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you're renting your audience. Those sites go away, you don't keep your audience. So bye-bye followers, And with Substack, I have all those email addresses. I could download them into a spreadsheet. They're mine.
I don't think
So
people realize how valuable that is.
it's very valuable.
Huge.
It's going to become more valuable to bring that to publishers than your social media following. Mark my word. It definitely is.
Your mailing list is your number one most valuable piece of platform. And I want to give you guys a really specific example of this, which is that I have been having a bit of a rough January. I live a very white, very privileged life. I don't need like pity or sympathy or anything. But as far as like white lady problems, first world problems, I have been having one of those months where I'm like, there are so many things on my list to do, and I just can't bring myself to do any of them. I just need to take a nap. Oh, I slept too late. I can't do this thing that's desperately on my list because I needed to start first thing in the morning, and now it's 11 and I wasted the whole morning on, Twitter or whatever. So even though I did dick all, and that's a technical term here, to market this episode of The Writer's Bridge, we still have 172 of you here, which is about the same as we get when I hustle my ass off on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram to remind everybody that The Writer's Bridge is coming up, and carefully craft Facebook posts that are not too markety and have useful information in them so that people won't feel too sold to. And this time I made one post in the Binders Building platforms on Facebook, and I sent the damn mailing list. And the mailing list is what got everybody here. So if you are only going to do one thing, do the mailing list. That is what matters. And what I love about the mailing list is I get to write stuff I like to write and I like to share with my mailing list. Over to you, Kathleen.
And I could add to that example. The last Substack I sent out this week, one had this in it, but two also had information about a nonprofit organization I belong to called the Women's Media Group. And we always, try to get new members. Well, I had no idea this was going to happen, but I got a ton of inquiries, right into my business inbox from women who are interested in joining. And that had not happened. The Women's Media Group email list is decent, but it showed me the power of my email list. And I think that's really, really important. And when you can grab your audience like that, it's definitely meaningful. Definitely.
Someone asked about content on Substack. Can you take that with you if they go under, for example, or they change the policies?
I think so. I don't know. I have not. I should look into it. But here's the thing. I don't write into Substack. Every single one of my Substacks is in a Word document.
Nice.
And I would suggest not writing right on the platform. Keep everything so you have it.
I'd say that's certainly good practice all the way around, all the time.
Yeah.
We also got to just slightly address right now, Substack has a Nazi problem. So do you treat this like, honey, we've got raccoons in the basement, but the rest of the house, we still like living here? Or is it more like, oh no, the neighborhood is going downhill, we need to get out as rapidly as possible?
No, and what I said on Substack is I'm staying there. The people who have left Substack are in a position where they're making a ton of money on there. They have, well over 100,000 subscribers. They can move to any platform and be okay, and they're the ones that I would not have even known that any of this was happening until they brought it up. And what I said on Substack is this: unless you build a platform, you make the rules for the platform, you own the platform. You don't get to say what happens on that platform. And as much as I am a supporter of free speech, I am not a supporter of hate speech. But at the same time, I'm realistic in that every single platform has a problem. I don't care what platform it is. If they don't have a public problem, they have a private problem that'll someday become public. It's just what I know from, being in an MBA program for the past 2 years and studying a lot of industries. It's what I know from my PR work. It's not that I support, Substack publishing, Nazis, but I think the story also got somewhat conflated because there aren't as many newsletters on there as was, reported. And there are a lot of us who are staying on there. I don't have the energy to keep moving platforms. The one place that I stopped really posting on is Twitter. I did not delete my account yet because it's just like hanging there. But, where I draw the line is someone like Elon Musk and them, that platform is useless right now because the algorithm favors everybody who pays for a blue check mark. And that's not equitable. And I have no interest in that. And I have no interest in a platform that has Alex Jones on it. Sorry, not sorry. But, and I have, huge problems with Elon Musk and what he stands for. So that's my choice. That's the thing. And this is always my philosophy. You as an individual get to make the choice. You don't get to tell me how I should act or what platform I should be on. I make that choice. I make that choice as a reader, what books I'm going to read. I don't have the right to tell you not to publish something. That's where my philosophy lies on all this.
And I'm also going to say too, this also, like Joelle points out in the chat, the algorithm does weird things now. It doesn't always favor the verified folks. I ended up with a blue check that didn't go away when blue checks went away and you had to start paying for them. And there were people who were like, "Ooh, we got to get rid of it. It's a sign that, you're giving money to Twitter and everything." And I'm like, you know what? It's putting my responses first below other people's stuff. I'm going to go ahead and say it's a shitty platform right now, but I'm still connecting with some people that I want to be connected on it. Rebecca Morrison's here. Rebecca has really good stuff to say on Twitter as a platform. And I think Rebecca also has a blue check, so you get to actually see her. And actually, Rebecca, will you unmute yourself real quick? How are you balancing the ickiness of people with being in a platform where there are icky people, which applies to pretty much every platform out there? Rebecca, what's your thought?
Yeah, Twitter's the place that's been my home, and that's where I find the most writers. And I put one question about something, one sentence about, sometimes some family members don't support your writing or they don't understand what you're doing. It's all I said, and it was like 130,000 views and 600, comments about ideas and support. So I agree. It's like, it has to be natural to you. Some people feel really natural on Instagram. Some people feel really great on Facebook. I've never liked Facebook and I can't like it. I've tried my best. But it's like Instagram, Twitter, it has all the problems you were talking about. And I 100% agree. But I block people if they say weird stuff. And I tailor my feed to writers. And I know it doesn't reach maybe like IG and Facebook and TikTok. I've done a lot of research on this. I know they reach out. You can find the readers maybe of your genre better. But if you want that supportive community, I find Twitter has the most expansive writer community. Just regular people wanting to support and answer questions. And incredible writers will just give me incredible, helpful advice. I like it.
Thanks, Rebecca. Really appreciate that.
And I don't disagree with that. Here's the difference between Twitter and Threads, the fundamental difference. Threads is where all the normies are. it's not a media centric platform. It is regular folks, it's not necessarily writer folks either. It's just regular folks. And I enjoy it because of that. It's a brand new audience for me. And I've only been posting there in earnest probably since the end of October. And so I've been on Twitter for 15 years. I topped out at about 14,300 followers. I've only been on Threads since the end of October. I'm almost at 14,000 followers. So it's a very much though, what you give is what you get on there. I get a lot of engagement on there because I know how to post on there. And someone gave me a very good compliment the other day and said, I reminded them of what it was like to post on Twitter the first 5 years of Twitter. And it's refreshing. So, and I feel like Twitter still does have value for a lot of different writer groups. I'm not devaluing that at all. It's just, and again, this is my philosophy. It's just not so much for me right now.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's great. We had someone ask about Twitter is good for connections. What level of paid checkmark do you suggest? They have 3 levels. Do you suggest getting a paid mark?
Rebecca might know the answer better than I do on this. I don't know.
I don't think you need to pay for a check mark. I think just find out if you even enjoy the platform before you bother to spend money on it. Somebody mentioned a thing in the chat saying, hey, how do you find other writers on Twitter? And the answer is you find them the same way you find them on every social platform. You follow them on purpose and you engage with them. And one of the things I want to mention for everybody is we have this feeling, this almost like Victorian feeling of like, oh, am I pushy if I interact with somebody I don't know yet? And what is most Victorian about social media is the idea that the roof constitutes an introduction. When you're invited to the country house, you are already introduced to everybody at the country house because you're under the same roof. You're allowed to talk to people without a formal introduction. And on all of these social platforms, go ahead and make that first move. Even if all you do is say, oh, I like what you had to say, comment on it, join in, because that really is how you ally yourself with people. That really is how you become part of that group.
It is. And I saw a question pop up about how I post on Threads. What do I mean? What I mean is today, this morning I posted, both of my teenage children were texting me simultaneously. It was one, mom, a piece of the charger broke off in my phone. What should I do? While the other one was texting me, mom, I'm stressed. And I wrote on Threads, I had some breaking news for them that they have a father and they know his phone number. And this wasn't, my name is not Mary, and this was not an immaculate conception. And people really like that. I got a lot of interaction because of that. So that was the old Twitter to me. Like, you can write something like that, and you don't get people being nasty or anything like that. I had a lot of moms chime in, like they totally get it. Some dads were like, my kids don't value what I say anyway, so they're not going to come to me. But that's what I mean. That's what I mean by that. It's very like innocuous stuff. I don't do heavy promo on there. I could tell you that as far as Substack is concerned, 90% of my traffic comes from within the Substack app. The rest of it usually comes from email, and then less than 3% of it comes from social platforms.
So, Kathleen, beyond social platforms, in 2024, what should we be focusing on in publishing? If we're a novelist, if we're a memoirist, if we're a narrative nonfiction person, how should we be spending our attention in terms of getting our books into the world, getting our words into the world?
Well, one of the things that I talk about a lot is defining your reader. And not enough authors do that, I feel. Your book is not for everyone. And I wrote a Substack about that a few months ago. That's not an insult, it's the truth. you have to get very granular about who your reader is. So brands, for instance, beauty brands, I can speak to. I know a lot of people who work in the beauty industry. They actually create customer profiles. They give them names. They pull stock photos. They, it's name, age, married, not married. Where do they shop? What do they do for a living? Do they have kids? No kids? All of those things. Make a really specific reader profile and figure out where they live when they're not online. Where are they when they're not reading? What stores are they in? What podcasts are they listening to? What shows are they streaming? What movies are they going to see? Because people are spending money, but they're spending it on very specific things. I've seen Olive Garden, double-digit growth within the past year. Converse, double-digit growth. Levi's, double-digit growth. Tells you a story. Comfort, comfort, going out for that comfort food, putting on a nice pair of jeans and your sneakers and going out. You have 11 and 12-year-olds asking for $60 skincare and their parents buying it for them, which is a whole other story. But the point I'm making is people are spending the money, but they're spending it specifically. So find out who your reader is and where they're spending that money, and then figure out how to find them offline. And that's very specific to your book. And that's where I think a lot of focus should be, because if you could figure out where they are offline, you could figure out where they are online.
I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. That ties into something I've said, which is one Aunt Martha who takes your book to her church and presses it into all of her friends' hands is worth 10,000 followers on social media, because nothing replaces that kind of personal touch.
Yep.
As we get near the end of our time, we want to leave you, as we always do, with the 3 things you can do today to start moving your words into the world, start connecting with your readers. Before we do our top tips, we want to say, join us next episode at the end of February, which is going to be Anne Kafuza talking about how to score the perfect book deal. We're going to talk all about, do you need a proposal? Do you need a full manuscript? How do you get to publishers? How do you get to agents? All of that fun, exciting stuff. Remember that coming up for Craft Talks, we have some fun webinars and some fun workshops coming up. We also have me teaching Pitch, Publish, Get Paid for Jane Friedman, February 6th. And remember, always feel free to share the Writer's Bridge with your writer friends. Our replays are now going to be on YouTube, and you will be able to find them there. We are not going to send a replay email tomorrow. We are down to only 2 emails. So pass the word around that the replays are now on YouTube. That link is in the email you got today and yesterday. So 3 things that you can do today. Sharla, what's your top tip?
I would say, first of all, remember that you're already doing the work, and the fact that you're taking advantage of this opportunity to network with other writers during this session and building connections within the writing community. I've said it before, it's invaluable. You can find collaboration opportunities, valuable insight into the publishing industry, and so forth. And my philosophy is to move in the spirit of generosity, because it will then come back to you. So if you are interested in meeting with other writers, maybe even sharing work for feedback, seeing if anyone's willing to read your book for a review, you can meet us in Discord. We have a community brewing over there. I added the link in the chat.
Awesome. Kathleen, what is your top tip?
Be fearless. Don't let fear lead you to not post something on social media or be too afraid to make a video because you're afraid of what people will say. It's none of your business what other people think about you. Remember that, and move forward without that fear. It'll help you tremendously.
I 100% agree. Be as generous as you can. Don't wait for people to invite you in. The door is already open and you are allowed to walk through. This is your room. This is not a special literary world that you don't belong in. You are part of this literary world. So it's okay to start acting like it right now. Thank you all so much for being here today. We love our Writer's Bridge community. Thank you so much to Kathleen Schmidt. Please find her on Substack at Publishing Confidential. Find the Writer's Bridge replays on YouTube, and we will see you again next month. Happy writing. Please feel free to unmute yourself for a joyful goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Bye. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank
Hello.
you.
Thank you.
Kathleen, you are amazing. I think that's one
Oh,
of our
thank
best
you.
episodes ever. Thank you.
Thank you so
So
much for
good.
having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So glad to have you. Thank you so, so much.
You are very welcome. I look forward to everyone subscribing.
Right?
All right, guys. See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh.